Why do you look so glum? Are you breaking behind the smile that I know you're faking? 'Cause it is no surprise, I see it in your eyes, and they just don't lie. 'Cause if your life was a broken stereo, well, I'd be music to your ears, and your fears would be drowned.
Our project is an investigation into how people use peer-to-peer communication, sometimes called P2P, on their cell phones. We looked at trends in P2P communication and investigated which factors would make people want to use these functions more. Our goal was to better understand how cell phones factor into people's communication and then how that communication impacts journalism. We found that people really enjoy the convenience of new cell phone technology and that they're really just beginning to start using P2P for what may be considered journalism, or spreading the news to each other. We wanted to find out how having a so-called smartphone would affect a person's use of P2P communication. We define a smartphone as a cell phone that has internet and other functions that make it like having a computer in your pocket, like a BlackBerry or an iPhone. P2P via cell phones continues to become increasingly popular in people's everyday lives and in the journalism world. Now Veronica will give you some background information.
Our research began exploring the history of P2P communication throughout the United States, beginning with the impact of the landline or home phone, internet use, and how the advent of the cell phone revitalized communication throughout the nation and the world. The Aspen Institute's Knight Commission projected by 2010, 81% of Americans will own a cell phone. Text, picture messaging, and internet use is growing amongst the cell phone users. At the end of 2008, 2.4 billion people were regular users of a short messaging system, also known as texting. International editors and publishers warn that non-traditional communications or text messages are rapidly outflanking radio, television, and print media because of their immediacy and proximity to the public. That was in 2004. In 2009, we're already there. Because of this type of communication is becoming so prevalent, a thorough investigation into social networking is crucial for journalists if the profession is to survive. We formulated questions investigating P2P communication on cell phones, focusing on the difference between smartphones and dumb phones.
On your worst case scenario.
Our hypothesis is that if someone has an internet-enabled smartphone, then he or she is more likely than someone with an internet-enabled dumb phone to use internet-based peer-to-peer communication. We used several methods to conduct our research. First, we had focus groups. Focus groups are meetings with a small number of people with similar demographics to discuss a topic. Our first focus group was all journalists, either professionals or students. The second focus group was 3 non-journalists. Both focus groups were asked how they use their cell phones and if or how they use them for journalistic purposes. We also did interviews to find out the ways people use P2P on their cell phones. We interviewed an equal amount of men and women, half between the ages of 18 to 25 and half 35 or up. We used all this information to create an online survey taken by 600 people with varying demographics. Now let's talk about our results.
Hey guys, what's so funny?
Oh, nothing. Veronica just responded to my tweet about how terribly my day is going.
Sorry your day's going bad, but what's a tweet?
It's like a status update on Facebook. Use twitter.com and just keep everyone up to date on what you're doing.
Cool. So wait, is it only on your phone or can you use it like on the computer?
No, it's just the internet. So most people started using the computer, but if you have the internet on your phone, you can use your phone. 15% of respondents in the survey said they use Twitter every day, but only 5% said they tweet from their phones. Lots of social networking sites and other forms of P2P are popular, but usage is much more frequent on computers than on cell phones. For example, 40% of respondents answered that they check Facebook and MySpace every day of the week from their computers, but only 3% check it from their phone. Email is another P2P possibility on the phone, and though we didn't have results for computer usage, only 20% check their email very frequently from their phones. A lot of the drop in frequency has to do with the types of phones people have and whether or not they have internet on their phones.
Smartphones are a lot easier for people to use internet-based P2P on, but they're also expensive and so is internet on them. Our survey showed that only 1.17% of dumb phone users tweet from their phone very frequently, while 11% of smartphone users do. Also, only 0.58% of dumb phone users said they check Facebook and MySpace from their phone very frequently, while 7.5% said they check the networking sites from their phone very frequently. The The most surprising find in the smartphone versus dumb phone usage of internet functions was that 2.3% of dumb phone users said they check their email very frequently, while 45.5% said they check their email from their phone very frequently.
Our survey, we found out that having internet on your phone is really expensive, and that influenced a lot of people's decision on whether to keep it. Yeah.
43% of all respondents said that the price of the phone influences their decision in purchasing a phone very much, and 54% said that price of service influences their decision in purchasing a phone very much.
So there are a couple of forms of P2P that didn't change much between smartphone users and dumb phone users, and they were the ones that didn't involve using the internet. So like texting and making actual phone calls, those really didn't change very much. 44% of dumb phone users say they text message very frequently, while a close 59% of smartphone users say they text message very frequently. As far as phone calls go, 53% of dumb phone users say they make phone calls very frequently, and 63% of smartphone users say they make phone calls very frequently.
Okay, and then overall 50%.
We couldn't see usage based on specific ages because of the limited filtering powers, but of the retired respondents to the survey, 23% of them said that they text message at least occasionally.
There's so many people who use Twitter and Facebook and do more than just make phone calls to communicate.
Yeah, with the increased affordability and the easy access to the internet, these are becoming more and more popular for cell phone users.
I think the survey really showed that a lot of people are really using these services and really benefiting from them, but a huge percentage of people are still just getting by on the basics.
Yeah, and that's really what matters, and the results were really interesting, so we'll let you guys know how this can apply to your life, your profession, and your P2P.
You don't see me though, and we could.
So just like with any research, there were a bunch of things that we didn't find out exactly what we wanted to know, like text messaging. What are the themes that people are talking about, and what things are they sending and receiving? In multimedia messaging, we don't know about video and picture messaging, and that'd be really interesting for us to look into. Our research will be helpful to news outlets by allowing them to better understand the news and the ways that which people use their cell phones to consume news, so they can better meet the needs of their customers. And it could also help cell phone companies understand which functions people like or dislike on their phones and what prohibits them from using all of the functions on their cell phones. Texting was definitely the most popular, a very small difference between smartphone and dumb phone users, and it was by far over 50% for both groups.
Smartphone users use Twitter more than dumb phone users, but still the majority of them don't use Twitter on their cell phones at all. But the small percentage that do use Twitter use it very frequently.
Other social networking sites like Facebook and MySpace were very popular among smartphone users who had internet access. Dumb phone users almost never access Facebook or MySpace via their cell phones. Smartphone users check their email frequently, whereas dumb phone users almost never access their email.
So our research consistently found that smartphone users are much more likely to use a huge variety of cell phone functions, especially those that relate to the internet. So now, but where smartphone users and dumb phone users were about the same was with texting. They both like to text a lot. So if news outlets want to capitalize on this research, the best thing for them to do is to start with texting, because that's where they're going to reach the biggest percentage of cell phone users. Now, we have a couple of questions that we think should be answered as we continue along this line of research. So, should reporters use their smartphones to take pictures, shoot video, or do live reporting from the scene? What could be gained or lost if that happens? Is this easily transportable over social networks? And what would happen to if citizens started taking photos and video and passing them along social networks? Cell phones are definitely here to stay, and we all think that if news outlets are going to try and continue on this line of thought, I have to take this.
Hello?
Yeah, we could be so good. Why do you look so glum? Were you weeping and letting go